Hey guys, I got myself settled in nice and comfy here. Chair was getting a little old. I needed a little bit of a change of scenery here. So, as promised, I am popping back in and I want to talk to you a little bit about the foundation that my work is based on. So, I literally, every class that I do, I send out a document called the foundational work. Its first sentence states, I cannot stress enough how much engagement, motivation, communication, timing, and consistency will be the foundation of everything that you ever dreamed your dog could learn or do. As I mentioned in my earlier video, this has been a journey for me to get to this point of where I'm at and with my training. And so it really does mean a lot to me, and I am quite passionate about it. And so I'll go into a little bit of detail in terms of what that means. Yes, I brought some notes, going to keep myself on track. Again, anybody that knows me, I tend to lose focus and go off on tangents. So rest assured, I've got notes. We're going to try and stick with them. So let's look at each one of those just kind of quickly in between. So motivation. You need to motivate somebody in order to cause change. If there is no either pleasant or unpleasant reasons as to why they should actually change something, it's just natural for any being to keep going on the path of least resistance. So when you bring that into our dogs, if we don't actually give them a reason to want to change their behaviors, are we actually changing their behaviors, or are we simply micromanaging them along the way? Why would they change if everything seems to be going decent exactly as it is? We can add stuff, we can take away stuff, it can be pleasant, it can be unpleasant. We could get into the whole science, and there's a little graph and all of that stuff. I I also don't tend to do really good with that stuff. Thank you, ADHD, away it goes. But at the end of the day, if we want to modify and change a behavior, there has to be a reason. Okay? We also need to engage them in this process. If this is something that the behavior only needs to change when we're around asking for it, the rest of the time the behavior is not going to change. If it's something where we're constantly forcing the change of behavior, the behavior is not actually going to change. It's only going to change when we're around if necessary. So we really need to engage the other participant in this. So what we're talking about right now is dog and handler. We need to have the dog wanting to do it. If not, again, why bother? The more engaged they are, the faster and the stronger the modifications are actually going to take place. Because every time we try and make a change, we're trying to kind of activate them and get them moving, right? We want to kind of get something rolling. So if they're actually engaged and it starts becoming a two-way conversation, next thing you know, they're trying to activate us. They want us to be helping them to make that change. And you start seeing this cycle, and this is where the communication starts happening. So leading up to that communication, how does a dog communicate? Dogs speak dog, humans speak human. Learned that from Katie Sullivan and Dogma. She is right. How does your dog communicate the best? If we think about ways that dogs communicate, they smell. They smell everything. How many of you have dogs that spend your whole walk nose to the ground? They use their nose. So scent is a big one. Body language. Body language, both ours and theirs. They're watching us to see what we are doing to know what indication of what we want. And they're also communicating to us with very subtle little actions along the way that if we're not watching for and we're not aware of, they're still telling us, but we're just not getting the memo. a dog's ears, a dog's tail, a dog's eyes. All of this stuff tells us a lot. But if we're not looking, again, dog's telling us. Whose fault is it that we're not understanding? So another one in terms of communication would be the way you speak. It's kind of a joke in my class, but I don't care if you're saying pickle or sit, your dog is probably going to do the exact same thing based on your body language while you're doing it and the tone of voice you're using. If you are talking in a happy-go-lucky voice like this, your dog thinks it's great. Why wouldn't they? If you're constantly talking to your dog like this, they may think that they're always in trouble, even if you're saying good job. That's what they understand. Dogs don't speak English, French, Swahili. They don't speak a language. They understand the tone. So the more we're able to watch how we're talking, it goes right along with that body language to make things easier. Another big one is touch. Your dogs know happy touch. So if we're petting them and we're telling them they're great, that's awesome. At the same time, we have a lot of tools at our disposal as well that we use every day. Our leash, our collars, our hands. Again, even that, using your hands to touch your dog and kind of guide them in certain ways. Big, big way of doing it. So what we really have to look at is what's motivating them, what makes them actually want to learn and engage with us, and what is their communication style? What makes them feel that reward that you're offering? Once we understand those three things all going together, then it kind of falls back on us again. Do you ever hear somebody say that it's usually not the dog we have to train, it's the human? Been there, done that. Trust me, I had to be trained. So once we are able to work and communicate with our dogs, because we've got that basic, woohoo, we want to do something together. Once we have that, the biggest way that we can keep that building and going is to, one, watch our timing, and to two, be consistent. If we are constantly rewarding our dog 5 seconds too late, we're rewarding that 5 second later behavior. So if we're telling our dog they're awesome for sitting, and then we both get up and walk to the counter to get a treat, we're actually rewarding that walk to the counter. It has nothing to do with the sit. So watch that. Your dogs only have like a 1 second or less kind of time span that they'll understand what the reward is for. After that time span, you've pretty much lost that opportunity. So constantly be aware of what's going on. If your dog looks up at you during a walk, tell them they're great. Don't wait until they look away again and then try and get their attention. If they naturally look at you, say, hey, good job, I see that. Okay. The more consistent we are with this, the easier it is for our dog to create habit, because it takes away some of the guesswork. It takes away some of the unknown. They begin to know what to expect. They know how to behave. And then we start creating habit. The more we have of that, the easier things go. On to page 2. So I have I like analogies, is I guess what I'm trying to say. So I really, really like this one. We don't let a person jump into a car and start driving away without telling them what is the gas and what is the brake and what they're for. It would be kind of scary if they could go at all. So why will we start walking our dog or asking our dog to do tricks when we haven't explained to them the yes and no, the go and stop that we're expecting of them? That's where I like to come in, because I find that part fascinating and I want to teach you so that you can teach your dog. Okay, think of it like that. I've got a 16-year-old. She's starting driving. Trust me, we want to make sure we know the gas and the brake before we start going too far. So in talking about all of this stuff, it sounds really good. We got to find out what our dog likes. We got to make them want to be with us, and we got to just get them going. Not always as easy as it sounds, and I'm the first one to admit it. So, like I said, any change needed in any kind of relationship has to be twofold. This is where that engagement comes in. If you are a member of the family that wants to see change and the rest of the family doesn't want to see change, the dog's going to have a really hard time understanding who's doing what. The dog has to understand to come back. The more we are forcing stuff on either the other members of the family or the dog, the less progress we're actually going to see, because we need to have that consensual, engaging, motivating want to move forward. And we have to have reason in there as well. Somebody somewhere has ambivalence about something going on, or we wouldn't be having these conversations. There's somebody that's not happy. Either the dog is not happy and showing behaviors that are termed problematic or reactive. Something's going on with them saying they're not happy, or else we just can't handle it. They can't live like this in our household. We're not happy. Without that, again, why are we changing? But let's go back to the motivating part where it has to be twofold. It all has to go together. So basically we have to get all parties involved on this. And away goes the notes. You guys are in trouble now. So if there is discourse in any of those situations I just talked about, whether it's in the home, whether it's amongst the family, whether it's amongst dogs if you have multiple dogs, before we can truly start working on behavior modification, we need to know what the rest of it looks like. That's where we're going to get our answers 99% of the time. We do a couple tweaks in the way things work, and suddenly you start seeing progress. And the more you see progress and the more you each get to feel that progress, the faster the path goes. If we just start correcting and jumping on the behaviors, it's very similar to going to a doctor, and rather than trying to find a reason behind your symptoms, they just start treating the symptoms. Suddenly you're on a lot of medications, you don't feel like yourself, you don't quite know what's going on. Do we really want to keep going down this path or not? Because we still don't know what's happening. So I like to go back to the beginning, and I like to start right from the beginning and talk about what needs to change, why it needs to change, who's going to be involved in it. And then we'll get to the behavior modification part. That's where we see change. I hope some of this has made sense. If it doesn't, if you have questions, reach out. There is a comment section. I will be checking into it, maybe not right away over the weekend, kind of a little busy, but I will definitely be going back through it and putting on some more answers if people have questions, and putting through whatever I can to help people out. So we're going to take another little break, and I will talk to you shortly.